I was checking one small dental claim when my whole life cracked open. A spinal surgery. A $42,000 balance. My mother said, "You make enough." My sister screamed, "You're selfish." So I sent the fraud report. I was checking whether my dental cleaning had cleared when a new claim appeared on my insurance portal. Almost $60,000 for a spinal procedure at a private clinic I had never visited. The unpaid balance was a little over $42,000 because the clinic was out of network. My name was on it, birthday, insurance number, and billing address. For a few seconds, I just stared at the screen, waiting for my brain to catch up. I refreshed the page. I checked the date. I checked the patient details again. Nothing changed. According to the portal, I had gone to that clinic, signed the paperwork, had spinal surgery, and agreed to pay whatever my insurance didn't cover. But I had never been there. I had not had surgery. On the date listed, I had been at work, answering emails and sitting in meetings like it was any other normal day. Then I opened the attached documents. There were intake forms, financial responsibility forms, a copy of an insurance card, and a scan of an ID. My name was printed on every page. At the bottom of the financial form was a signature that looked close enough to mine to scare me, but not close enough to fool me. Then I saw the phone number listed for billing questions. It was my mother's. I went cold. My mother, Barbara, had my social security number from when I was a kid. She had access to old family records. She knew enough about my life to answer basic security questions. And a few months earlier, during Thanksgiving, my wallet had disappeared from the kitchen counter for about 20 minutes. At the time, I blamed myself. I found it later inside my purse under a folded napkin and told myself I had probably moved it without thinking. My mother had been cleaning counters. My younger sister, Karen, had been sitting at the table, complaining about her back. Everyone was busy, and I didn't want to start drama over a wallet that wasn't really missing anymore. Now it made sense. My insurance card. My ID. Maybe photos. Maybe copied numbers. Enough to pretend I was the patient. Karen had been dealing with a herniated disc for months. I knew she was in pain. I am not pretending she wasn't. She had called crying before, saying she couldn't sleep, couldn't sit, couldn't live like that anymore. I felt bad for her. Pain can make people desperate. But Karen had never handled waiting well. She didn't want referrals. She didn't want the cheaper hospital route. They had hinted for money before. My mother never started with a direct question. She started with guilt. Your sister is suffering. You don't know what it's like to watch your child in pain. You're doing so well now. It would be nice if that success meant something for the family. I offered to help look for resources. I offered to compare payment plans. I said I would not hand over thousands of dollars without knowing exactly what I was paying for. That made me selfish. That was always the word they used when I didn't immediately give in. Selfish for asking questions. Selfish for having limits. Selfish for not treating my savings as emergency money for everyone else. I should have known my mother would find another way. I called her with my hands shaking. She answered like nothing was wrong. "Hey, everything okay?" For a second, I couldn't speak. Her voice was too normal. Too calm. Like I wasn't staring at my stolen identity on a medical bill. I said, "Why is your phone number on a surgery claim under my insurance?" Silence. Not confusion. Not shock. Just silence. That was how I knew. I said, "Mom, what did you do?" She sighed like I was already exhausting her. "Before you get dramatic," she said, "you need to understand your sister was in unbearable pain." My stomach dropped. I stood so fast my laptop almost slid off the couch. "Tell me you didn't use my insurance." "She needed help," my mother said. "You have good coverage. You make enough to handle it." Karen couldn't wait forever. "You used my identity. You're making it sound uglier than it is." "It is ugly. It's fraud. She could have ended up permanently damaged," she snapped. "Your sister was scared. I was scared. We did what we had to do." I looked at the screen again. There is a $42,000 bill attached to me. Then set up a payment plan. I actually laughed, but it came out wrong. "Are you serious?" "Don't talk to me like that," she said. "It's not like you're broke. You've always acted like you escaped us and became better than everyone. Well, congratulations. You built the kind of life where this won't destroy you." That was the moment something in me shifted. Not because she stole from me. Because she believed she had the right to. I said, "You forged my signature." She signed what they gave her. There was a muffled sound, then Karen's voice came through, already crying and angry. "You care more about money than whether I could walk," she said. I closed my eyes. "You had surgery under my name. I was in pain. You used my identity. You weren't using your insurance for anything serious, she said. You were fine. I wasn't. You were fine. That had always been the rule in our family. If I was standing, I was fine. If I was working, I was fine. If I wasn't falling apart loudly, I was fine. And if I was fine, whatever I had could be taken and handed to Karen. When we were kids, if Karen cried, I gave up the toy. If Karen wanted attention, I was told to stop being jealous. It followed us into adulthood. Karen made mistakes and people rushed to soften the landing. I made progress and people treated it like proof I could afford to lose more. But this was not a childhood fight. This was my name, credit, medical record, and my future. I said, you both need to fix this. My mother came back on the line. What you need to do is calm down. I'm calling the insurance company. If you do that, you'll ruin us. You already ruined this. You would send your own mother to jail over a bill? There it was. Not an apology. Just the warning underneath the guilt. If I protected myself, I became the villain. I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. Then I got sick in the bathroom. The next morning, I had 17 missed calls. My mother, Karen. My Aunt Susan. My Uncle William. My father, Charles, who had been divorced from my mother for years, but still decided he had a right to judge me from a distance. The messages started gentle. Please call your mom. Don't do anything emotional. Your sister needed help. Then they changed. Your mother made a bad choice for the right reason. You can recover from debt. Karen might not have recovered from waiting. By lunch, my family had turned the whole thing into a moral test, and somehow I was the one failing it. Susan said my mother was desperate, not evil. William said I would be destroying 2 lives over a credit score. My father left a voicemail that I listened to 3 times because I could not believe how disgusted he sounded. I know what your mother did was wrong, he said, but some things stay inside a family. You don't hand your sister over to the police because money got complicated. Money got complicated. That was how he described identity theft. For a while, the guilt worked. Not because I agreed with them, but because I understood what could happen. If I reported it, my mother and sister could face charges. If I stayed quiet, I could be trapped under a debt big enough to delay everything I had worked for. My credit could be damaged. My insurance could flag my account. And if I accepted it once, what would stop them from doing it again? That question settled everything. Not immediately, but enough. Because nothing had stopped them this time. Not shame. Not love. Not fear of hurting me. They had looked at my life and decided it was available. So I started gathering proof. I downloaded every document from the portal. I saved the claim details, the phone number, the signature, the dates, and the balance. I pulled work records showing I had been nowhere near that clinic on the day of the procedure. I saved emails I had sent during the surgery time. I found card statements proving I was buying coffee near my office that morning. The more proof I collected, the less panicked I felt. Not calm exactly. Just clear. I called the insurance company first. After I explained what happened, I was transferred to their fraud department. The investigator assigned to my case was named Patricia. She had a steady voice and asked direct questions. When I said, I think my mother and sister did this, my throat tightened. Patricia did not pity me. She just said, then we document it carefully. That helped more than comfort would have. Then I went to the police station. I sat in the parking lot for almost 30 minutes before going inside. I kept hearing my mother's voice in my head. You would send your own mother to jail? I almost left. Then I opened my banking app and looked at the savings I had built by saying no, working late, skipping trips, and living carefully. That money was supposed to be my safety. It was proof I was not trapped anymore. $42,000 could swallow it. And even if I paid the bill, the lie would still sit in my medical file. So I got out of the car. A detective named Michael took the report. I expected judgment. I expected him to act like I was being dramatic. He didn't. He asked for the timeline. I told him about the claim, the forms, the phone number, Thanksgiving, my mother's admission, Karen's call, and the family pressure. At one point, I said, I don't want to ruin anyone. He looked up from his notes and said, you're not the one who created this. I had to stop talking for a moment. For days, everyone had treated me like reporting the crime was worse than the crime. It was the first time someone said out loud that the damage had started before I defended myself. I filed the report. After that, things moved fast. The insurance fraud department contacted the clinic. The clinic reacted immediately, probably because accepting forged documents and billing the wrong person created problems for them too. Suddenly, people who would have ignored a billing dispute were paying attention. A billing manager named Jennifer called me from the clinic. Her voice was careful, almost stiff. She asked me to confirm I had never been treated there. I have never been inside your clinic, I said. She asked if I had authorized anyone to use my insurance. No. She asked if I recognized the phone number on the paperwork. Yes. It's my mother's. There was a pause. Then she said, "We are reviewing check-in footage." That sentence made my stomach turn. Until then, some foolish part of me still wanted another explanation. Maybe the clinic had made a mistake. Maybe my mother had not stood there and helped sign my name. Maybe Karen had been too desperate to understand what was happening. The footage killed that hope. My mother and Karen had walked into the clinic together. Karen was visibly in pain, moving carefully but aware. My mother stood beside her at the front desk, calm and prepared. Forms were handed over. Karen signed on a digital pad. My mother helped with the paperwork. My name was used again and again. When Jennifer told me the footage matched the forms, I did not feel satisfied. I felt empty. Proof did not make the betrayal cleaner. It made it impossible to deny. The clinic removed the balance from my account while the investigation continued. My insurance froze the claim and marked it as suspected identity theft. I signed affidavits, sent records, and repeated the same facts more times than I can count. I did not consent. I was not the patient. I did not sign those forms. My family found out I had officially reported it 2 days later. My mother sent one text. "You have no idea what you've done." Karen left voice messages. I deleted most of them, but one played before I could stop it. "I hope you're happy," she cried. "I hope your perfect little life feels worth it when mom loses everything." Perfect little life. That was what they called years of discipline, cheap apartments, missed vacations, emergency savings, and building a future without asking them for anything. They acted like stability had been handed to me. It had not. I had earned it quietly, and that was why they thought taking it quietly would be easy. Susan called me cruel. William said we should have handled repayment privately, even though no one had offered a real repayment plan. My father said I had become cold. I finally answered one of his calls because I wanted at least one person to understand. He said, "Your sister was scared." "I know. Your mother made a terrible choice. She used my identity and forged documents. She did it because Karen was suffering. She committed a crime using my name." He exhaled like I was the difficult one. "You're talking like a lawyer, not like a daughter." That hurt, but not the way he meant it to, because being a daughter had never protected me. Being a sister had never protected me. Family had only made it easier for them to take from me and call it love. I said, "If a stranger did this, would you tell me to pay quietly?" He didn't answer. "You wouldn't," I said. "You'd tell me to report it." "That's different." "No, that's the problem. It isn't different just because they knew exactly how to hurt me." He said he was disappointed in me. I told him I was used to that. Then I hung up. The arrests happened about a month later. I wasn't there. I found out from Susan, who sent a message so vicious I had to read it twice. "They arrested your mother. Are you proud now?" My mother and Karen were charged with identity theft and forgery. Because the claim involved insurance and crossed state lines, the case became bigger than a family argument. It was documented. It was official. It was criminal. And still, they blamed me. Not the forged signature. Not the stolen identity. Not the medical bill. Me. My mother had to borrow against her house to pay for a defense attorney. Karen's medical debt was reassigned to her after my name was cleared, and because she had no real way to pay it, the clinic started pursuing her directly. My family called that my revenge. But I did not choose the private clinic. I did not choose the surgery. I did not copy the insurance card, sign the forms, or gamble with someone else's future. I chose not to be buried under the lie. The official letter came weeks later. It said the fraudulent claim had been removed from my record. The balance was no longer assigned to me. My credit file would not reflect the debt. My insurance account had been corrected and protected. I read it 3 times at my kitchen table. I expected to feel victorious. Instead, I felt safe and hollow at the same time. Because clearing my name did not give me my family back. Or maybe it only proved I had never really had them the way I wanted to believe. It is a strange kind of grief, losing people who are still alive. They can still call, still text, still exist in old photos. But something dies anyway. The hope that if you explain your pain clearly enough, the people who caused it will care. My mother never apologized. Karen never admitted she had a choice. The closest thing I got was a message from my mother after her first court appearance. "I hope your clean credit keeps you warm." I stared at it for a long time. Then I blocked her. Not because I stopped loving her. That would have been easier. I blocked her because love had become the leash she used to drag me back into guilt. For my whole life, I was trained to shrink so Karen could be protected. If she needed attention, I stepped aside. If she needed money, I was expected to understand. If she made a mistake, I was told not to make it worse. My mother called it compassion. My family called it loyalty. But loyalty without consent is control. And compassion that only moves in one direction becomes a cage. Sometimes I think about how close I came to giving in. How easy it would have been to call the clinic and ask for a payment plan just to stop the panic. How many people were ready to watch me carry a $42,000 lie because that was easier than admitting what my mother and sister had done. That scares me more than the fraud itself. How normal they made it sound. How quickly they turned my self-defense into betrayal. I am alone now in a way I wasn't before. No family holidays. No casual calls. No childhood home I can return to without becoming the villain in every room. Some nights, that hurts enough to make me question everything. Then I look at the letter clearing my name. And I remember. I did not ruin my family. I stopped letting them ruin me. Maybe they will tell this story for years with me as the heartless daughter who chose a credit score over her sister's spine. Maybe some people will hear it and agree with them. But I know what they asked of me. They asked me to pay for a crime committed against me because the people who committed it shared my blood. They asked me to accept a stolen identity, a damaged financial record, and a medical file full of lies so Karen could keep being protected from consequences. For once, I refused. If that makes me ruthless, then maybe ruthlessness is what boundaries look like in a family that never respected them. I still feel guilty. I still feel angry. I still feel sad in a way that sits under everything. But when I imagine going back and choosing differently, I can't. Because the truth is simple. They used my name like it belonged to them. And I finally proved that it didn't. So was I too ruthless for reporting my own mother and sister, or did they lose the right to call it family the moment they decided my future was theirs to spend?